maybe the car and private transport won't have no longer the, let's say, the main role on the mobility. So here there is a kind of very general scheme where we said, okay, maybe we have a play with intermodality nodes where slow mobility and public transportation could exchange and take over the overall network. Let's say a more sustainable way of transport. And the other one, the last one here, is the energy. And also in these terms, we wanted to focus on the decentralizations and trying to spread new ways of producing energy, like solar collectors, wind turbines, and other typology of collectors or harvesting energy harvesters. And of course, for example, we were saying, why don't we enlighten the industry that are along the water and could be, let's say, reused in another way, for example, transformed into hydrogen stations or water heat or pump storage facilities. So let's say trying to create an overall more sustainable network also here. And all of these is what we have called the landscape of difference. Here you can see this kind of blue-green network is an overall corridor, and that's what binds everything together. And here you can see the 3 zooms where we had more focus, and we will explain. I will explain you in a while. And these overall structures is simplified as this loop, so it kinds of overlapping to the star network, and breaks it. I mean, it intersects it in a new type of shapes. I would start with the Trebiner Wasserlandschaft, and this is what we had as a regional park focus. And here we started with the idea that here you can see the blue Landschaft and all the polarities, all these new centers of tomorrow. And basically we wanted to show a prototype of this green-blue network. So it's not a very specific, sorry, I'm just moving here. It's not a very specific regional park, but it wanted to be an example or how it could be a potential prototype of it. And for sure, we took one area that is very agriculture, very full of water and artificial and natural canals, or even water reservoir. It also a Wasserschutzgebiete, and we wanted to try to experiment how a multiple matrix of different tools could enhance the landscape here. So here you can see a collection of different tools like this post-industrial oase or the biofarm, that are all of them are acting to, let's say, to protect and use the landscape not as a bucolic environment, but most productive and performative space. And so, for example, we have all of these tools is just an example of them, but are touching all the themes that I discussed before. So we have the energy community that are connecting all over the urban structure, the little urban structure that are there. Or, for example, this post-industrial oase, if we have a quarry, maybe we can reuse it as a biodiversity core, or, for example, using here in the Wasser production, the water production, as not just a leisure element, but also a way of producing. And so, or for example, here we have this pixel landscape, because we were trying to let's say promote small scale organic farming that are replacing the monoculture, that also have an impact on the underground water. And this is just what I just explained in another typology of view. And for example, here you see how maybe this kind of energy arresters are integrated into the landscape, and you can pass through. So it becomes a more usable space where not just agriculture or energy production are placed, but also leisure and living as well. The second one is Oranienburg. And Oranienburg was the area where we had to redesign a section of the settlement star. And we choose this point because it's a typical of the complexity of the region. So we don't have only the landscape as aspect, but we also have a very different urban structures and full of abandoned and active industrial plants. Sorry, does it work? Yes. Here. We have a lake, we have different typology of urban structures and different typologies of residential. And it is also one of the final parts of the star. So here we wanted to see how the two structures, the urban and the landscape, could integrate themselves. And is also one of what we have called the centers of tomorrow, where the ecosystem will be strengthened and sustainable urban structure will emerge. So here you see the blue-green network that is kind of breaking the structure of the city and trying to integrate itself. And the polarities, because of course we have important parts into the urban structure with activities, with facilities, with new areas where new residential areas could come. And the third main concept was the mobility, because we saw that the whole area is about 5 kilometer distance. So potentially it could also be used without a car. So it's a very small, short distance that everybody could also cover in another way. And actually it is full of parking lots and private, let's say, car plot. And here you see the master plan where you see all the layers that are interconnected. And one of the main focus on this area was let's say the water management, a more sustainable water management, because for example precipitation could be located and recycled and buffer and infiltrated in and eventually even discharge into green areas that are closer to the urban systems. So it also have an impact on the hot summers, and soil nutrient could be preserved. The last one is what we have called Kreuzberg confetti, and it was the focus on a neighborhood of Berlin. Again, I guess my laptop is freezed. Yes, so we are in Kreuzberg here. This is the Museum Island, and it's a very central, of course, that everybody knows, a central area of Berlin. And and in this one, we wanted to analyze the heterogeneity of Berlin itself. So we took the concept of the Kreuzberg mix that is already very present. You already can appreciate the different typology of urban structure that is present in this area. And we wanted to even enhance it. So create not just a mix, but a super mix, showing that urban density and life in the countryside are not contradictions, but perhaps mobility infrastructure for the upcoming traffic turnaround, and creates a water and climate conscious urban landscape. So we decided also here to analyze the three different layers. So the blue-green network that is again breaking the structures and creating an overall carpet where the confetti strategy, that is the urban strategy, would land. And in this case, we decided not to build anything else on the ground, but rather attack, let's say, the existing urban structure with different typologies. And the last one is again the mobility. And so here we decided to rearrange the street layout, trying to create these car-free super blocks. that are more pedestrian friendly and bicycle friendly, and all the additional space gained is covered with the green space. And here again is the overall view, where you also see that we decided to open the Lenné canal, the Lysann canal, sorry for my pronunciation, and connecting the two green, the two blue system as it actually was in the past, and also that could help with flooding events that will due to the future climate change condition that could potentially happen with this heavy rain fall in the city. And here you see the super mixité, let's say, where we had additional existing blocks, filling or adding on top parasite architecture. It was a little bit of provocation, but we wanted to say, okay, let's adapt to possible scenarios. If we have to be more dense, let's be more dense in a more sustainable way and try to free as much as possible the site of new constructions. And that was just a simple view of the canal. So I think I hope I didn't went so quickly, so fast, but please let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah, I will jump in again. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, so actually I will tell the audience a little bit about the competition in German, because maybe it's interesting for the background if not everybody knows about the process of it. So then we can wait for questions.
I don't know if I have to
have any
sharing,
questions,
sorry. Yeah.
please post them in the chat or via camera. Genau, zum Hintergrund des Wettbewerbs, wie Sie jetzt schon gesehen haben, war die Aufgabe in der zweiten Runde, dass die Büros, nachdem sie einen größeren Plan für ein Wettbewerbsgebiet im Maßstab 1 zu 100.000 erstellt haben, diese Entwicklungszusammenhänge zu vertiefen und für 3 ausgewählte Teilräume auf einer Liste von 10 Themenschwerpunkten zu bearbeiten. Und das durften die Büros sich eben selbst aussuchen, so wie wir hier gesehen haben, Kreuzberg als Ort oder Oranienburg. Da sind sehr unterschiedliche Orte gewählt worden. Und es ging darum, einen Ort aus Berlin und auch einen Ort aus Brandenburg zu wählen und den nochmal vertieft zu entwickeln. Das war die vielleicht herausfordernde, aber sicher sinnvolle Aufgabenstellung, die wir dann auch in der Struktur her im nächsten Vortrag so sehen werden. Yeah, maybe I have a question for you while we are maybe waiting for a question from the audience if anybody has one. So how did you start with thinking about ideas? What was the relation that you have to the region Berlin-Brandenburg? So why did you participate?
Of course. Well, we are, as foreigners architects, we definitely have another eye on it, but that's also why we like to collaborate with local. That was the case because the other office is a local office here in Berlin, and nevertheless I'm living here since 7 years, and I'm start using having also being used of it. Of course, we have our office here, but it was also a very good point, because I always been in Berlin and rarely go out of it, no, and it was also a good chance to discover Brandenburg. That is actually very beautiful, and we had multiple trips, especially in this Zooms area, because we wanted to appreciate how the landscape was there, and of course also discovering this issue of the of the drier and warmer Brandenburg, it was very surprising. So we definitely said, okay, it's a paradox. It is something that is not possible because we see water everywhere, and it's unbelievable that it's becoming really drier and warmer. But actually, when you start researching and reading, there are tons of newspaper articles talking about that. And it was very fascinating to start analyzing what could be done with that themes, and in general with the landscape. I mean, I believe that we have to shift the point of view. So planning a city in 2020 for the future doesn't mean, in my opinion, start thinking how many new houses would be needed, no? And maybe we have to turn around the point of view and really start to thinking, starting from the landscape, because it's something that will change drastically. It's very important for everybody, and the quality of the life, and not only for inhabitants like humans, but for everybody. And that's why the ideas comes from these general themes of the water, the landscape, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. And from your competition entry, what do you think is one aspect of planning that Berlin and Brandenburg could realize now to prepare for the future? What do you think is a very concrete thing that could be realized?
I believe, and there are already, let's say, other ideas, that the mobility system is definitely something that we could work on. So we had the opportunity to experiment, having little experiments during the crisis, during the pandemic. And we were always also going out and see nobody on the streets. We definitely understood that also the logistic and transport system could change. It is an effort to do it, but I would believe that this is something that it could be done in the near future, as well as the energy system. And I mean, all of them has a potential concrete doability, let's say, in the near future, step by step. I mean, everything. It also related to politics, I believe.
Very interesting, thank you. And lastly, I would be interested in a learning that you had in the process of collaborating with landscape architects and with Thomas Stellmach planning and architecture. Is there something that maybe surprised you, or that you could leave with the audience?
Yeah, well, totally. I mean, we are used to collaborate with other offices. I think nowadays it's very important to mix the ability. I mean, there is somebody that is more concentrated on the landscape. We had a consultant on the mobility that told us things that we didn't know. So it is definitely good to exchange knowledge and appreciate what the other partners could tell you, and also have another look of it. I mean, if you are working for 2 weeks on a concept and then somebody else is coming and say, look, these things doesn't work because of that and that reason, I think it's totally useful to have a kind of dialogue, not daily maybe, but totally it is important to have an external eyes and also let's say a dialogue on different issues.